Like, how do you make music like this? How do you do this? How do you wake up in the morning, get in the studio, and say, I'm going to make quality music just like this? I can't do it.
That was one of the best moments from our first live album reaction to Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist's new album, Alfredo 2. It was one of the best reactions we did all year, so if you guys want to catch it, check out the link in our pinned comment or in our description. But guys, let's get on with this review. Alfredo 2,
yes, sir.
One of the most hyped up albums of this year because it's a sequel to a Grammy-nominated album, an album that fans revere as one of the best of the 2020s decade.
That's facts.
So the question was, could they do it again? And personally, for myself, when it comes to sequels in music and film, I'm always a bit nervous, bro. I'm always a bit skeptical. I mean, if you guys saw Happy Gilmore 2, that's the perfect reason as to why you should be skeptical.
You didn't like Happy Gilmore?
I didn't like Happy Gilmore 2.
I liked it.
You enjoyed it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I watched with my little cousin over the week.
It was so much nostalgia bait.
But it was just fire, you know? Like, the Eminem scene was hilarious.
I didn't like it, bro. It was so
cheesy. With his kids, super
when
funny.
He's like, I just don't give a fuck when he's getting destroyed by the alligators. Come on.
But that's the problem. That's the thing with the movie, though, is it's supposed to be stupidity. But going back into this, I agree with you, right? Like, you always get these sequels, whether it's the Marshall Mathers LP 2 or, you know, some other installment of an album, and you're just, you know, left there wondering, why did the artist even put this out, right? Because it ruins the aura, should I say, that 4-letter word of the entire series, and it diminishes the value maybe of the first one. I don't know. Depends how you look at it. But with Alfredo 2, I think they did a wonderful job, not only at replicating, you know, the effect that the first one had, but adding even a bit more to the track list and giving you something that's a bit more robust as far as an album experience goes. So, guys, let's get into this album performance. Honestly, dude, Freddie Gibbs is a monster. He's been doing this for years at this point. I don't know what it's going to take to stop this guy from giving you top-tier performances on almost all of his studio albums. To be honest with you, it's been maybe, 4 or 5 years since we've gotten the first installment, and we've gotten solo albums in between that. And regardless of those solo albums, whenever he links up with one producer, it's game over, bro.
Gold.
The flow switches on this album are some of the nastiest that I have ever seen of this decade, bro. For example, going on to something like Skinny Shook Part 2. Bro, those flow switches within that first verse are absolutely seamless. The way that he starts off super patient and menacing. Then after that, the way that he then picks up the tempo and you get that classic, quick, rapid-fire machine gun-like Freddie Gibbs flow. It's nasty, bro. Even something like Ensalada, for example, he's rapping with so much conviction and he's rapping like he needs to get something off of his chest. There was so much passion within his performance
100%.
throughout this album. Dude, it was a masterclass, bro.
If we're going to talk about flow, we have to talk about one of his most captivating performances on this album. This came on Lemon Pepper Steppers, which feels like the God is Perfect of this album because it's a crazy exercise in flow, and throughout the first and second verse, you hear that flow gradually getting faster and faster without him switching his main rhythm, which is really impressive.
So I took down the timestamp of this because I remember we were in the live album reaction. We were listening to Lemon Pepper Steppers. What the fuck is this? This is nasty, bro. So if you guys go to that 1 minute mark, more or less around, that's when he starts to really pick up his flow. Bro, I don't even know how you rap like this. It's really gross, and he doesn't stop. Like you said, he continues it for the entire fucking record, and that's not the only example of an artist performance like this throughout this entire track.
No, for sure. And then you look at a song like Mar-a-Lago, still in the top half of the album, where he's running with multiple patient flows. But what's really cool is that the switches happen so naturally that you don't even notice them at certain times when it comes from him jumping from one to another. And I also like the Pimp C influence on that song when it comes to like the delivery and his BON flip. That was a really cool piece of homage, and I feel like Freddie's always had heavy influence from Southern rappers, so you obviously see that come to the forefront on this album,
for sure,
like you have in the past. Also, aside from the crazy rapping performances, which there's a bunch of them, you were talking about Ensalada, that's another highlight just because you kind of hear the shakiness in his cadence as he's portraying like all the harsh realities of the street life, so he always knows how to play the part with authenticity. It feels like whatever he's trying to evoke.
For sure. And something on Ensalada that I also noticed, it feels like he has a lot on his chest within that record. Sure. And you could see like it's almost like he's gasping for air after he's delivering every single line. And I love that touch of the performance. Something else that I really liked, I found there was some catchy hooks on this album. And I know you're not going to like a Freddie Gibbs album for catchy hooks, but looking at something like Feeling, bro, that's one of my favorite songs on this album just because of the earworm. We'll talk about the Larry June feature after, but the way that like that hook comes in and it takes up like 70% of the record, that flow is so fire, bro. And it feels like Freddie Gibbs is hammered at the end of a night, bro, and him and the Alchemist are on the piano and he's going along with it, right?
It's like he's at a karaoke bar in
Exactly.
Tokyo. That's exactly what it feels like. And it's raspy singing. And that's what I wanted to say about the singing performances on this album, because there are a couple of them. I feel like it's super lighthearted. He's not taking himself too seriously with them. And it just creates for a fun dynamic. Obviously, Freddie Gibbs is not a fucking Daniel Caesar level vocalist or something, right? That's not to be expected. What I do enjoy also about his performance is that even on a song like Shangri-La that's really focused more on his relationships with various women, let's say, he never sacrifices the technicalities, bro. Even on that song, his flow is second to none. And yeah, so ultimately, when it comes down to it, performance is filled with bravado from Freddie. He continues to be a gripping storyteller, and he's locked in for every performance here. Out of 14 songs, he never really dropped the ball. He never phoned in a performance whatsoever.
Nothing felt awkward. There was no flows that were, kind of an outlier in comparison to the rest of the stuff that he was delivering on the album. I genuinely feel like it's an amazing performance across the board.
I have an amazing rating too. Let me ask you this. What stopped it from the extra notch?
Do you feel like it's a bandana or like it's a piñata level performance?
I think from the rapping point of views, it is. I think obviously the singing cuts maybe knock it off just a little bit. If I had to really nitpick and be like, okay, is it really perfect 100 on 100? And also, you could argue this is more of a mixing issue, but I will say, as much as I love the multisyllabic rhyming and just his passion on a song like 1995. I've mentioned this to you in the past. On that first half of the song where the vocal sample is being played, I feel like his vocals are a bit buried beneath that production. But
sure,
it's more of a mixing thing. Anyways, amazing rating there.
Where do you want to go next, Lou?
Let's talk about the content.
What do you want to do, bro? Henry Hill references on the first verse of Empanadas. You want to talk about him talking about academics in Gunna. What do you want to do, bro? What are we talking about here?
We could start wherever you want. I mean, I think that what's really interesting is that, like you were saying about the academics in Gunna, like there is Lavish Habits on this album that's really a dissing spree. Like he's going at everybody.
I can read it out right here. Yeah, I'm still going to squeeze academics, that fat bastard. Gonna diss me and took a plea. He a rat bastard.
Yeah, that was funny.
Show
as
up
hell.
at your funeral, big Fendi bitch, 10 blickies. Pee on city girls like P Diddy, bitch, get with me. I was like, bro, when I heard that sequence of lines in the live album reaction, I'm like, dude, he's on a different type of timing. But also crazy cultural references as well in Lavish Habits verse 1. I'm busy smoking on motherfucking ops like Patrick Mahomes' pops. Mm-hmm. So when Patty Mahomes ended up winning his playoff win, his father took an interview and just started dissing all of his, oppositions and people that ended up doubting him. Also, pays homage to a bunch of different rappers that ended up losing their lives and ties that back to himself. Effects of being young, black, rich might unalive me. They killed Nip, take off Dolph, I see the signs, G. Just talking about how when you get that type of wealth, they'll come after you, they'll take your life, and they'll put it like sort of on the back burner, bro. So
yeah.
What did you like the most about this verse? Because I feel like content matter wise, it's probably the richest as far as quotables go, as far as like knowledge goes. What do you
what
think
I like about
verse?
Which verse? This is verse 1 on Lavish Habits?
Yes, but it's the only verse on Lavish Habits.
It's true. It's one long verse. I just like that he was talking his shit, kind of just sounding fearless and going at whoever he wanted. I think what was the most interesting when it came to disses for this album is that when you go to 1995, you have Freddie pretty much rapping about how he'd rather not entertain the Benny the Butcher beef and how Benny kind of uses his name for clout in interviews, etc. But what's interesting is that the Benny disses keep coming on this album. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch
so
of them.
So it's kind of a bit contradictory from Freddie. Like at that point, just go all in if that's what you want to do, right? On Ensalada, he brings in Benny's EP, The Plugs I Met, to go at him with the lyrics. Feels like guys never really met a plug, all imaginary Pablos. And on the very next song, he goes even more direct, where he goes, bitches in Buffalo get the same thing. They was throwing plates, limped away on his good foot, but he ain't bust a grape. These guys fake, sealed documents, still popping it. Fuck the certified crack, baby. Come get your mama hit. Shit ain't selling. They got to resort to drama shit. But ultimately, when it comes to the songwriting on this album, you're getting Freddie Kane, right? You're getting him exploring the cold streets of Gary, Indiana. And that's where my favorite songwriting cuts come on this album, looking at something like Ensalada and him going through those very personal first-person accounts of him battling against the most disturbing aspects of him being a dealer in the streets. It's the details that he adds that, put in so much authenticity. For example, you ever had to work the dope line, see your homie mom stand in the line for this shit, and waking up to cold sweats, I'm soaking wet, ain't got the stomach or the mind for this shit. That's what's cool is that he's not glamorizing the lifestyle on every single track.
No, he gives you a good perspective switch.
But
even on Skinny Shook Part 2, talks about seeing a figure in his life named J Boog getting shot in the eye, and then he does the whole wordplay with, that's when I got my clarity, talking about how he lost someone in his life by a shooting, and then after that he ends up moving on by saying, I learned from that experience and I got clarity, and then there's a double entendre there. Also speaks about not being able to see Mac Miller anymore on something like Gas Station Sushi. Says, still crying tears over Trell, I can't see Mac no more. And fans think that that's aimed towards not being able to see Mac Miller. They had a relationship in the past. Also on something like Jean-Claude, talks about losing the Grammy for Alfredo. I thought that was another highlight moment lyrically for the album. Grammy night felt like guys took my trophy like Reggie Bush. And of course, if you guys are familiar with the Reggie Bush incident in 2005, the Heisman Trophy was taken away from him in 2010 for NCAA violations.
And that's another cool thing about just the writing on this album. There's so many clever bars that have references to NBA players, football players, etc. Like there's a lot of that Freddie brought in here. Another massive highlight songwriting-wise that we have to talk about is I Still Love Her. And obviously by the title, you could tell this is a continuation of Common's classic, I Used to Love Her, which was a love song where it was really a big metaphor for Common rapping about his relationship with hip-hop and how he didn't like the way that it was evolving. And what's cool is that Freddie also personifies hip-hop on this song, but he flips it to like, I'm always going to be devoted to hip-hop. Like, this is the culture that I love unconditionally, and no matter what pressure comes with it, I'm going to be here. You know what I mean? And it's like he's also, throughout, like, the chicken talk and him rapping and bragging about hoes, like, it's all part of hip-hop culture, and Freddie is going to ride with that forever because it's part of who he is. So I feel like that was just a cool slice of homage to a classic song, and it was also a cool reference to I Still Love Her, the Teriyaki Boys and Kanye song that came out later on.
Content rating, where are you going with it, bro?
Content rating, it's great, bro.
I went with a great rating as well.
It's a great rating. I think that maybe there's some songs where like the verses are really focused on like some love shit or like him kind of dealing with some girls.
Yeah.
Where maybe
the
they
cars, money,
off a
drugs,
bit.
and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like the filler content that usually
there was a bit of that, but not too much.
No.
I also loved what he was rapping about on 1,000 Mountains. I thought that was really cool. Where he's like,
awesome.
I might retire, disappear.
And go into the mountains like Andre 3K and make a flute album, you know?
And
like,
no one's as cold as me. Also, funny-ass lines like, about to put these pussies in a box like the Barbie movie. It's littered with that as well. Really special writing from Freddie. But let's talk about the features. And this was a big talking point for the album, even though it was very limited on features. You have three features on here. You have Larry June, Anderson .Paak, and Jid. Let's start in order, I guess. The first feature on this album is going to be Anderson .Paak.
Beautiful hook
on Ensalada. My favorite feature on the album. I think it's the best hook on the album as well. Soulful vocals that just pierce through the mix.
Adds a nice break for that record as well. I love how they were calculated with the features, and they brought people in that felt close to home, right? Like, even with Larry June, I understand that not many people are a fan of this feature. I saw some backlash on Twitter for it. People were like, dude, like, it was absolutely useless. Maybe like 10 lines as a whole, and he's literally just talking to you. But you know what? It does feel like it deserves to be in, The Alchemist's wheelhouse, and I'm not going to stop listening to Feeling because of Larry June. You know what? I feel like Conway the Machine would have been nasty on that beat, bro. I feel like a crazy deep, like, Conway verse would have been crazy, bro.
Those days are over, dog.
I know.
Conway, Benny, West Side. I mean, I'd love to hear it.
I wish, bro. Like, that would have been incredible, especially with that piano loop. It would have been so sick.
For sure. After Babies and Fools, I mean, yeah, it would have been incredible. But yeah, Larry June, let's talk about his feature on Feeling. It was disappointing to me, to be honest with you. I just feel like it was a bit too slow. It felt like he was rapping in slow motion and that he was just way behind the beat and not being able to catch up to that tempo.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't want to sacrifice his flow for nothing as far as like production goes. And I just think when you're getting a beat that's that tempo, you literally, I'm probably talking faster than he was rapping like right now. You know what I'm trying to say? So
it sucked because like he matched the vibe of the song. Like that was a perfect song to throw him on. I just feel like he wasn't able to execute the way he should have.
You got some quicker flows on Life is Beautiful as well. It's not like he can't do it.
For sure.
Sometimes I don't understand his choices when it comes to rapping performances, but hey, he's fucking Larry June. He's a great rapper, but regardless, I think that maybe they could have gone a different route. But let's talk about Jid. So when we were talking about this in the live album reaction, you had said how you maybe expected a bit more
in terms of energy. I thought he'd sound a bit more volatile on it, whatever the case may be.
He's going crazy, bro. He spazzed out on this verse, dude, and it's long.
He went insane, bro. He went fucking insane.
I feel like sometimes your expectations get a bit too high, and then like you end up listening to it after over the weekend, and you kind of change your mind sometimes.
Depending on what it is. I mean, I admired this verse from the get-go. I wanted the energy to be something else. I expected it to be more aggressive. I expected something more aggressive because it's a Freddie song. But that being said, this is incredible. I feel like he out-rapped Freddie on his own song, reminding us that the crown is his for the taking. Look at the scheming on them in a ski mask in the summer inside of the city. Don't care if you see them or not. It's insidious. Like, crazy alliteration with the S rhymes. Also, a multi-syllabic rhyme scheme with the insidious, Sicilian, soliloquies. And then the bar work, bro. Don't care if you see them or not. It's insidious. Even the homophones on this verse, where he goes, when he's rapping like jeans and tailor-made, and more throughout the verse, like beating the block with a heavy bass in terms of like the musical bass, and also like the firearm of that could be a bass. Also, the flow switch. There's one major flow switch which was monumental on this song, and
it was like halfway through.
Even the setup rhymes, bro. The way that he brings up Howard Hughes and then ends up the verse with like, I'm gonna be ablaze just like the second tower. Insane.
Because I can cop playing like Howard 2 on the money chase with a wild goose guy. I ain't really that phased. I follow through. Like the whole 2 rhyme scheme there. And of course, Lou just referenced the Howard Hughes wordplay here, but also nice little double entendre because I can cop a plane like Howard 2. Back in 1938, he had set the record for the fastest flight in history. So regardless, amazing feature across the board. I went with a great rating on this.
I went with an amazing rating just because, to me, Anderson, again, sensational. Love the way his lyrics play into the theme of the song and even the backing harmonies. And then Jid has one of the best features of the year. Those were perfect to me. It's Larry June who brings it down to an amazing. That's kind of how I saw it.
I went down to great because of the Larry June feature. I love the Jid and the Anderson Pac feature, but I also think that there maybe could have been room for also a feature or 2 more on this album.
Really?
I would have liked to see it. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. It's
because like when I go back to a Bandana or Alfredo, you got Tyler in there. You had gotten Rick Ross. You had gotten Benny the Butcher. You had gotten Conway the Machine. It was a bit more of a robust feature list, and it's something that I maybe wanted to see towards the end of the track list.
I would agree with you if Freddie couldn't like handle the track list on his own. But like,
no,
even if to me it's like even if you eliminate all of these features, it would still be outstanding.
It's still fire, but also I like these not these compilation albums, but I like these collab albums between Freddie and a different producer, because even going back to Pinata, right? Like how many features were on there. I wanted a bit more of a robust feature list, but nonetheless, great features all around. Production.
Yeah, let's go into the production. So, obviously, Uncle Al, one of the greatest producers of all time, and I feel like this album just proves that he's still at the peak of his powers, bro. Bringing us some of the most exquisite jazzy boom bap lounge hip hop. You're getting incredible sample flips throughout this. I also really enjoy that there was a real hazy vibe on this album in comparison to the first Alfredo. And what I really enjoy too is just how great he is at setting the mood here, and how they stuck to that idea of having a soundscape that was very influenced by Tokyo and by certain film dialogue that you'll find from Japan, as well as bamboo flutes that will come in various songs on here. Which is obviously a staple instrument.
Yeah, and you hear that
Japan.
on 1,000 Mountains. We were talking about the whole concept of Freddie on 1,000 Mountains saying that he wants to move up into the mountains and release a flute album like Andre 3K. And it's interesting because you get that Oriental flute loop that just rings off throughout the entire beat. I also
perfect curation.
My goodness. There. Also, within the beats, I find that there's this constant structure to the production that creates a nice consistency within the track list. Every beat will have some sort of either female or vintage vocal sample that either rings off throughout the entire production or that only maybe comes in for a portion of the beat. You get your main instrument, and then the use of the chimes on this album too just added this beautiful, lush feeling to the project. You find that, for example, on a song like Ensalada, you end up finding it as well on something like Mar-a-Lago, where you get these chimes that ring in and out of the production. I found that added a lot of energy to it. Then you get something like Feeling, where it's a bit more of like an emotional production with that piano loop that comes through, and it feels a bit more like a ballad. Lavish Habits, I love the twangy guitars on that and how it feels like, you know, you're in this like hazy boat in the middle of Japan, bro, and you don't know where the fuck you are. Like, I really enjoyed the soundscape, and I love what Uncle Al did on this album.
100%. I want to talk about 1995 as an instrumental, just because that was a huge moment. You're getting the pairing of a vintage vocal sample with an orchestral sound and these pulsating kick drums, and then we seamlessly transition to the second half, where you have this electric guitar loop, which of course is a callback to 1985, the intro off of the first Alfredo, where you had the guitar-driven instrumental. So that was fan service, but it was also high art at the same time.
But it was also an evolution of the same beat, right?
100%.
It kind of felt like it was a bit more robust. There was a bit more to the production. Also, 1985 is a bit shorter of a record, right? And I think it only clocks
about
in
2 minutes.
Around that mark. I think even under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you get this, and it feels a lot more dynamic as far as the production. But like you said, those electric guitars were still prominent, and it makes you feel like you're listening to that song for the first time over again, right?
And I feel like, you know, the sampled guitar riffs on this album, that was one of like Alchemist's main uses, because you're getting a lot of guitar strings. For example, you're getting the soothing jazz guitar in Mar-a-Lago. You're also getting on Ensalada these warm guitar strings. And that whole beat just sounds majestic as fuck.
Even around the 250-minute mark of that song, too, wonderful vocal sample that comes in and that takes up maybe 10 seconds of that record. I love that little switch in production there.
Also, love the hypnotic guitar strings on Lavish Habits and the keys as well. That's a Japanese sample from Junko Ohashi.
But the sample work on the beginning of Empanadas and the way that it then transitions into the rest of the beat, I thought that was such a cool part of that beat as well.
The same, the intro that Ye used for Mercy, that was sampled on
in
on
like
that
little
track.
portions though, and it was like kind of like sprinkled into the rest of that track.
Yeah, that was really fire. Also, one of my favorite beats. I love the spacey and psychedelic atmosphere of Gas Station Sushi. I think he was using like that electronic Moog synth line and just some laser sound effects with hard-hitting drums. That's something else I feel like was improved from the first Alfredo. Was just the drums, the mixing of the drums, how potent they sounded, how crisp they sounded.
The drums on Skinny Shook Part 2, when they're paired up with like those sci-fi synths almost.
Insane.
Oh, bro, it just creates such a great atmosphere for Freddie, and just an all-time beat, bro, I think, out of all of their collaborations. Bro, honestly, I gave this production a perfect rating. I'm not going to lie to you. I gave it a perfect rating. Name me a flaw.
Honestly, like, the only nitpick that I had was mixing on Freddie's vocals for 1995, but I still have to give it to it, bro. I have to give it the perfect rating.
Oh, dude, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
It's arguably, like, better produced than the first Alfredo. I will say that.
100%, bro. And I love how, like, it's so rooted in OG hip-hop, but it's also Alchemist's unique flip on it, because at the root of this, you're getting boom bap like drums for the most part, but it's the way that he layers these beats, the samples that are woven in and out of it. Also, the instrumental outros are incredible, where sometimes you'll get a brand new sample that wasn't on the rest of the song, just featured at the end of the song for the sake of either transitioning into the next record or giving us a flavor that is vibrant within Japanese culture. So incredibly curated from The Alchemist. And again, I just feel like it operates in a world where every beat feels like I'm walking through a dark alley in Tokyo, bro, in this sort of like neo-noir crime drama, where they're kind of the captains of the ship. So perfect rating, one of the best produced hip-hop albums I've heard in I don't know how long, bro.
This decade.
Yeah, it was stupid.
All right,
replay value on this album.
I'm keeping
everything. This is a double perfect for me. This is another perfect rating for the replay value, 14 for 14, and this is top tier hip hop. Like, this is not an album that you're gonna get often. Like, this is one of those, like, maybe once a year, once every couple of years, you'll get an album that's this strong, that's this consistent.
There's not a single miss on this album, bro.
Yeah, bro. From the timeless production to the rapping, the lyrics, like, this style of hip hop doesn't go out of style. Like it's been hot, and it's going to continue to be hot, especially when you have two masters at their craft at the forefront.
That's it. I ended up doing my keeps list like I usually do for these reviews in my notes, and I didn't even have to create one just because I knew I'm keeping everything, bro. And you're getting some all-time songs on here. Something like 1995, I'm going back to all the time. Mar-a-Lago, going back all the time. Lemon Pepper Steppers, Enchilada, Empanada.
The entire track list.
Yeah, bro. What are we talking about here? It's just it's a different level of replay value, and like the first installment, that's still heavy in rotation 5 years later. I think this is going to be heavy in rotation for the rest of the time that I'm listening to hip hop. It's just an all-time collaboration. Replay value is absolutely perfect. Like Lou said, if there was a double perfect rating, I would give it. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, overall thoughts, I think they did it again. Like we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, it's not easy to pull off a sequel to a classic album, but they did it. They arguably even made a more robust and just a bit more of a complete album experience than the first Alfredo, which I really enjoyed.
So are you saying this is better than the first Alfredo?
I think it's on the same level.
Okay.
I think it's on the same level, and you could argue that it's better. If someone really made the arguments to me, I could be like, okay, I understand why. Also, Alfredo was dropped at a different time in hip hop where there's maybe a bit more conversation around it. We had more time to live with it. I think this is going to age as a classic for the community, especially our community. And as I said, you have everything you want out of a perfect hip-hop album here. You get Freddie Gibbs that's absolutely ripping apart these beats. You get great cultural moments. You get great storytelling from Freddie Kane. You're getting classic Alchemist production on this. You're getting great features. Overall rating's an amazing rating. What an album.
Yeah, no, just as a sequel album, I feel like Freddie and Al knew how to balance fan service with fresh material, and that's exactly what we had wanted. Freddie's rapping his ass off. He's giving you fresh perspectives on the street life, which he's always been tied to, but also going further into his mental state and how he's been affected by all of this and how he feels about his position in the hip-hop game as well. And Uncle Al's always there to understand how to set up the perfect moods for him. And I feel like the beauty of Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist's partnership over the course of these two albums, and especially here, is just the juxtaposition and the contrast of Freddie's brutality on the mic and the Alchemist's soulfulness behind the boards. I feel like it's a match made in heaven, and like Freddie raps towards the end of the album, there is no one better to rap over the Alchemist production. Like, he's making albums with a lot of the most sought out after rappers in the game, and no one's able to surf and to fucking slide on these productions the way that Freddie Gibbs can. If you love hip hop, you'll love this album. I think it's as simple as that. As of right now, in this very moment, I have Alfredo above it, the original, but who knows with time? Maybe it matches the same level, maybe it surpasses it. But it's not far behind right now, and I will say this is competing with Clips for album of the year for me.
Yeah, this is the 1 and 2.
This is the 1 and 2, and it's going to take a lot for those positions to change in my books.
And listen, I think 2025 is starting to heat up, ladies and gentlemen. So with that being said, the Patreon plan is going crazy right now. If you guys want to catch our full live album reaction, like Lou said at the beginning of this episode to Alfredo 2, all you have to do is visit the pinned comment, and the link will be there for you. Much love to everyone that watched this review. We may have just gotten an album of the year contender on our hands. Guys, we'll see you towards the end of the year, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.